Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you for being with me again today. I just stumbled over a piece of news provided by an article that was very, very, very interesting and very revealing. This has to do with if you can believe, a prosecutor from the Nuremberg trials. Remember the Nuremberg trials after the Second World War? The victors organized some trials, and they trialed some German leaders, and no, most of them were hanged. Some of them succeeded to cheat them by killing themselves, which is Goering, and one of the most important, Rudolf Hess, succeeded to have life in prison, and everybody else, I think it was another one who escaped like that, but the rest, most of them were just hanged by the Allies. Justice was served, I guess. And right now, I didn't know that. I just found out that the last surviving Nuremberg prosecutor is still alive. Can you believe that? I couldn't. I said, they probably were long gone, right? It's been so many years since then, correct? Yes, it's been. So we have here, very nicely, the title from CBS News. And I sat on this because I was like, should I do this video? Should I not do this video? Be careful, Emil. Okay, so let's see if I could be careful. This is from May 12, 2022, and it came at 11:47 a.m. So phew, it's been what, 2 days and a half. So last surviving Nuremberg prosecutor says Putin, and I'm quoting, certainly, end quote, a war criminal. So you have a former prosecutor, and at the Nuremberg trials, he is 3,000 years old, and he knows that Putin certainly is the war criminal. Isn't that strange? I wonder what kind of crystal ball he has, if he has any, and he figured that out without investigations, without anything. But I realized why. I made a connection, an inference, deduction, based on certain information that I read about this gentleman. I was like, come on, how now? You know this. And how in the hell are you still alive? Now, I had some information on the Nuremberg trials. I read some books about it. And one of the books that I read, and I very heartily recommend to you, if you haven't read it yet, I will not mention this person's last name. I will mention the first name and the last name's initial in the name of the book. Obviously, it's Nuremberg Trials. That's the book. And the author is David, and the last name starts with an I. Nevertheless, let's go. I read that among others, but that was like you have Howard Zinn in the United States with his People's History of the United States book, the other version of the history, seen from a different angle. Howard Zinn, the historian who died, I think he was MIT professor, he died, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago. He wrote People's History of the United States that was viewed from an anarchist, socialist, people's view, the history of the United States. Very critical. So if you're a socialist, that's the book, or anarchist, all the same. So the same here with, not the same, but this book written by this historian breaks some taboos and says certain things that are not told. I know he was charged with all kind of named all kind of names when you say uncomfortable things and so on. But nevertheless, it's good for your own knowledge, just pay attention. So I looked at this guy and I said, this guy's name is Benjamin Ferenz. And I was like, this is Hungarian, Ferenc, with CZ at the end. Definitely it's a Hungarian. But since I read who were in the First World War, the delegation of First War, I'm talking about First War, Versailles, the U.S. delegation was full of Ferencs, let's put it this way, in the U.S. delegation, that the people looking at the U.S. delegation were like, it was full of these guys. What are these guys doing here? And bankers and politicians and lobbyists and, you know, these kind of vultures that come after war and try to get all kind of stuff. So the same kind of thing was with this Nuremberg trials, when you have some kind of vultures landing on the corpse and trying to eat it and expose it to the sun, to rot, and give us the smell so we can feel guilty about it, all of us. So there we go. Benjamin Ferenz, now 102. So I said, man, he said, this gentleman, he said that Vladimir Putin certainly is a war criminal. Okay, I said, what is wrong with this guy? So Mr. Ferenz fought in some of the most significant battles of the World War II. He was a young lawyer, recently graduated from Harvard Law School. That it was a ring bell for me. Law school, Ferenz, prosecutor at the Nuremberg trials. I said 100%, I bet my life that this guy, I know. So I said, okay, let's go and see. So he was assigned to a unit tasked with gathering evidence of the Nazis' war crimes in Europe. Very nice, very nice. And he says, certainly he's a war criminal. You don't have to think too much about that. Ferenz told CBN's news. Yeah, you don't have. You just act with your heart and with your history. So let's go. And I said, who is this guy, man? Let me go. So I went nicely and I checked the easiest source, the Wikipedia, which is positive probably with Mr. Ferenz. So this is what I found, and I'm going to share it with you gladly. He was born on March 11th, 1920, so he's aged 102. And he was born, listen to this, in Solt, Satmar County, Kingdom of Hungary, now Romania. So then again I said, I was right. He's a guy coming from Romania. What kind of guy can come from Romania with Ferenc as a last name and Hungarian, right? Well, not really, if you know what I'm talking about. So he was born, and this is his Wikipedia page starting. Is a Romanian-born American lawyer of Hungarian Jewish descent. He was an investigator of Nazi war crimes after World War II at the chief prosecutor for the United States. So this guy, a Romanian-born American lawyer of Hungarian last name Jewish descent, was an investigator of Nazi war crime after the war as the chief prosecutor for the United States. What was the connection between Jews, Nazis, Second World War? And this guy was chief prosecutor for the United States. All right? So you make the whatever you make. I make my own. I mean, I didn't have to. I just wanted to make sure that I know what I was looking at. So very interesting guy. Born in Romania, living in the United States, by Hungarian and Jewish descent. Hungarian by last name and other stuff. So then he was a prosecutor for the Germans. So I don't know how to put it bluntly, but it's like, let's say the United States would have lost the war and let's say would have committed some crime against Japan, and then Japan at the end of the war would, prosecute the American leaders. Do you think that would be a-okay? I know it's not the same thing because that's the government. But let's say, I don't know how to say, you have a, I don't even know how to put it. But I think you get the idea here, you know. I mean, do you think he had some bias? Any? You think so? Well, nevertheless, very interesting, this gentleman, Benjamin Ferenz. I was surprised that he, when I read his biography, but nevertheless, as I said, read those trials, and by that historian, and he has a very nice book called Dresden, the same guy I mentioned at the beginning of this, and he was all good until he started talking about other things that are taboos, and then he was all called this and this and this and this, and eventually imprisoned and this, and just check him out. Thank you very much for being with you again. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and Definitely Putin is a war crime. What evidence you need? This prosecutor, if he is 102 and he thinks like this now after a lifelong experience, I wonder how was he thinking in what, in when he was like 30 some years, not even? I wonder. All right, thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just. See ya.